Fred and Ethel went to the county fair. They've been married about, I don't know, 60, 61 years. And so every year in Iowa, the county fair would show up. And so they went. And this year, something new was at the fair because every year they had something new. This year, they had a big helicopter on a pad. And the sign said, helicopter rides $50. And oh, my goodness, Fred wanted to go up in that helicopter. And he said, oh, Ethel, I'm in my 80s. This may be my only chance to go up in that helicopter. Can I go? And she said, that helicopter ride is $50. And $50 is $50. Come on. She snatched him and they went around and had fun at the fair. And he grumpily went along and sort of kind of had fun. And they went home and went to bed. And the next day was the last day of the fair. And they decided to go. And after a little while, Ethel couldn't find Fred. But she knew where to look. So she goes over and there he is, just standing there like a little boy, just looking at that helicopter, longingly, wanting so much to go up for that helicopter ride. And like all good, loving, dedicated wives, Ethel snuck up behind him and grabbed him by the shoulders. And she said, what did I tell you? That helicopter ride is $50. And $50 is more than we have. Let's go. You're embarrassing me. So just as they were turning around to leave, the pilot said, folks, I couldn't help but over here. Tell you what, I'll make you a deal. I'll take you up in this helicopter, and I'll give you the full ride. And if you can stay quiet the whole time, it won't cost you a penny. Well, Ethel loved that, so in they went, and up he went. He got real high, about, 1,200, 1,500 feet, and then he banked real hard to the right. He banked real hard to the left. Then he did some spins and twirls and some ups and some downs and some dips because he had years of experience. After all he could do to get them to yell out, he said, as he's landing, folks, I've got to be honest. In all the years I have been a helicopter pilot, I have never failed to get someone to at least shriek or eek or gasp. You didn't say a word the whole time. You've got to tell me. How did you manage to do it? After about a second, old Fred said, well, to be honest, to tell you the truth, I almost said something when Ethel fell out. But $50 is $50. Change. A lot of things have fallen out in our lives in the last particular 19 months. This particular change had a name called COVID-19 or coronavirus, but change is always occurring. This just happened to affect the planet, and it happened to get lots of press and lots of awareness. We're used to change, aren't we? But most of us don't like it, do we? Raise your hands if you had a yearbook signing at high school where somebody stupidly wrote, never change. Stay the way you are. As if that's even doable. We have to change of necessity or we would still be in mom's womb, and I don't think she'd like that. Raise your hands if you changed your underwear this morning. I don't want to know that. Change is built into our lives. But ironically, it's the one thing we keep resisting. We don't like it when things change. We don't like it when our conditions change. We don't like it when our jobs change or our responsibilities. We don't like it as parents when our children grow up and change. We have trouble with that. We have difficulties accepting what we cannot avoid. We don't even like it that every single day of our lives we're moving closer to the end of our lives, at least our physical version, because we start to leave here in the womb. Did you know that medical science can now track that? We start the dying process before we even show up and breathe our first. Basically, it's not really about living well, it's about dying well. The question is we don't know how long we've got. Most people in America act like they've got, 78.9 years, give or take. Just depends on who you ask in the medical system. And we can keep you alive longer, technically, as long as the heart's beating and there's a brain wave. You're technically alive, but are you living? Probably not. So change is endemic. It's built into the human experience. We can't get away from it. And I could talk for hours because I have been with the health department in Volusia County Emergency Management and hospitals all over Florida. I have been busier than I normally have in the last 19 months, helping people deal and cope with the world as we know it. The shutdowns, the turn-offs, the turn-ons, the now supply chain problems, and all kinds of things that are just natural fallout from change. And have you heard it? I'm sure you have, and aren't you laughing? If you're not, you should be laughing at people on commercials and on TV saying, the new normal. Stupid, don't even say it. Because there is no normal. There never has been. I have people coming to me all the time saying, Mark, I just want things to go back to the way they were. And I said, you hated the way things were. You hated your life. You hated your job. You couldn't stand your neighbors. All of a sudden now it's paradise. Life's all about perspective. Change is necessary for us to evolve and grow and become our new selves. We should embrace storms because in the storm is the gold and the jewels. But no, what do? We steer away. We try and avoid. If you're a native Floridian like me, or if you're an import, or if you're a transient, you understand that Floridians know all about change. Every year we deal with what? Hurricanes. We like to track them and watch them and have plans and hunker down. And some of us are smart and leave if it's coming right in, and others are hard-headed and stay. And we all have to deal with that change every year. And that's something we know about. We schedule it. We prepare for it. So we should be good at this. And yet we're not. People get angry, they grumble, they fuss, they complain because the very thing that we're built from, which is change, we don't like, we fight it. Question for you. Can you put your foot in the same river twice? Raise your hands if it's yes. Raise your hands if it's no. Are your hands working? Raise your hands if you're undecided. Raise your hands if you plead the fifth. You cannot put your foot into the same river twice. It's simple. I won't give you the quantum physical reasons behind it, but bottom line is, you put your foot in the river, you take it out, you put your foot in the river again, the river you touched the first time is now downstream. You're different, the river is different, the water is different, a whole different experience. You'll need to know that, fisherman. This one over here carries his hook at all times because who knows what he's going to catch. Now let me ask you another question. Let's get real technical only for a second because I don't want to get too deep. Can you put your foot into the same river once? Raise your hands if the answer is yes. Raise your hands if the answer is no. Oh, we got one or two or three. Raise your hands if you have no idea what I'm talking about. Philosophically and metaphysically and quantum physically, you cannot put your foot into the same river even once. Why? Well, we now know with the electron microscope that the water never stays still, and neither do the molecules in your feet. The molecular structure is always moving. So nothing ever stays still long enough to actually make contact. So technically speaking, your foot's not even in the river. There's a feeling or a sensation that's running to the brain that has water sensations. But you're not really in that river. It gets very strange now and abstract, but this is all easily documented by science. Now, we don't live our lives this way, do we? We know that this is in constant motion. These pieces of wood here are in constant molecular, because they're going so fast that they give the appearance of being solid. So I'm not going to hit my head on it thinking it's not really there because it's going to hurt. But the truth of the matter is, quantum physics has shown us clearly that nothing stays still long enough for any contact whatsoever, which gives a whole new meaning to what it means to exist, what it means to be alive. We are always in motion. We never really sit still. That's an alarming thought, isn't it? We're always moving because life depends upon constant molecular movement. So change is built in. We are made of change, and yet it's the one thing, if not one of the top three, that we resist. By the way, the reason that I didn't change clothes today and look a little nicer for your audience out there, because I don't care how I look for you, it's because I'm on call at the hospital for trauma all day. So this is a trauma chaplain's outfit. But I changed into a clean one, so if you hug me, there's no blood, you're all right. There's no snot, there's no spit, there's no nothing. But I'm on call for 24 hours, and I have to stay ready to go. And boy, believe me, on weekends, it's fun. It's fun. But I didn't change so that I could give you that proper appearance or look more official. But it wouldn't have mattered anyway, because I just explained to you the nature of change is always occurring. So I'm curious, before I give you my CALM, how to stay calm in a storm acronym, before I give you this quick recipe, I'm curious if you'll just throw out, or you could throw up if you want, the ideas or the things that you have personally used in the last 19 months to cope with all the changes. What have you used? Meditation.
Deep breathing.
Deep breathing. Music. Walking.
The river. Walking.
The river. I thought you were going to say Tommy, but all right. The river. Water. Water is a homing device. Why is that? Because we show up in 9 months in water. It's a natural homing device. Water world. We get room service, food shuttled down. It's perfect. Why would you want to leave it? But moms want you out. But water is a natural homing device for people. Keep going, say more. I heard meditation, but I didn't hear another one. I should have heard it right away, medication. Because I've been involved in a lot of people who use a combination of deep breathing, meditation, and medication. We should take advantage of all that we can to keep ourselves stable as it gets. Because it can get rocky. And we're all at different levels of coping. Let's face it. Some of us are better at chaos than others. I love it. I'm 60 years old, and I've been loving it since I was 7. I showed up on the planet, cut the cord myself, and said, let's go. People ask me all the time, Mark, why do you do this? And I really don't have an honest answer, except I showed up on the planet equipped. I earned 3 different master's degrees, and here I am doing it. Because I know how to be in it and make the best of it. It doesn't really frighten me. I understand this is the normal state of things. And peace can be constructed in the storm. The average bear doesn't like it. We like things to stay the way they are, predictable, calm. We like that. We like our routines, and there's nothing wrong with liking it, except the fact of the matter is the universe could care less what we like. Have you noticed that? There's an old proverb where the man goes out on a starry night and he looks up into the sky and he says, "Sir, I exist." And the sky looks back down to him and says, "That fact creates in me no obligation." In other words, we can make our plans, but God laughs. The universe laughs. Make them, by all means, make your plans, but don't expect to be there. Too many times in the last 19 months have I been called upon to be the last person someone in an ICU sees before they breathe their last, as I hold the phone and they say goodbye to loved ones, sometimes close, sometimes far away, having succumbed to coronavirus. I counted it, and it was over 2,000 people that I personally was involved in 19 months. But I do work in trauma, so it makes sense that I would be. And I work in a level 2 trauma center, so that's all behind the scenes stuff that never makes the press. You can imagine my own personal thoughts when I hear people saying it's not real. But I won't go into that because I don't have to. I don't have to. It's still occurring, just not at that rate. Not at that rate. Again, all things have their time. But things don't always go away. They just change and there's difference. Anyone else have ways that you coped that you'd like to throw out before I give you my CALM, how to stay calm in a storm? Yes, ma'am.
Zoom.
Zoom. Yeah, a lot of people have become tech savvy. I mean, people of all ages are just picking it right up. I love that. It means I can't cuss as much when I do talks. I sometimes would say the word, like SHI, and I thought, oh, I better watch it because who knows who's watching this? Well, yeah.
Eyes closed.
You were going to say a word?
Yeah, I use acceptance.
Accept it. So you simply accept what is and you embrace it. Right. That's a wise way of doing it. And in fact, that's one of the things in the CALM. You simply embrace what is. Because it's basically, if you refuse to embrace what is, it's like going to our beach on incoming tide and standing there and screaming, don't come in, don't come in, don't come in. Go, go, go. The tide's going to look at you and laugh because it's its job to come in. Nature knows what to do. It's the humans that are stupid. We are the defiant ones. But if you look at the natural world, it already knows what to do. Yes, sir, Joe.
I do it. I shut my eyes when I breathe deep.
And just try and collect yourself and be within yourself.
Yeah.
There's ways to be in the midst of a crisis, but not of it. You can be in something and it's all around you, but you're fine in the midst of it because you're somewhere else while you're in it. That's how I survive. In, but not of. In, fully available, but not of. Separate. Intact. Because I have to go to the next one. That's how you should survive in life. But it takes practice. We don't show up with those skills. You have to learn them. All right, here's my quick CALM. What do you think C stands for? How to stay calm in a storm. C stands for what? That's a good guess, calm. That's a great guess, courage. Change. Man, you guys are on the money. You're just wrong, but you're on the money. It stands for control what you can. Control what you can control. Which isn't very much, is it? Most of what happens in our person, place, and thing, situation, and life and environment is completely outside of our control and sometimes our prediction. But what we can always control is our perception and our attitude towards it. We can always control how we think about it, how we feel about it, and what we do and how we behave regarding it. Many, if not most of the things that we think we can control, like other people. Have you ever tried to control other people? If you're married, you know you've tried that. Or if you have relationships of any kind, you know you've tried that. Even if it's passively trying to manipulate and control and get your way, it doesn't work. It may work for a while, but it always backfires and it always has consequences because you cannot control other humans. Some humans can't even control themselves. That gets into another whole conversation. C stands for control what you can in any chaotic moment. And what you can't always control is your thoughts about it, your mood and your emotions about it, and your behavior towards it. You're always in control of that unless you give it away. Now, people do give it away. They get scared and they allow other people to steal their power to be in control of who they are. I'll give you an example. I was walking in last week at 5:30 a.m. from the parking lot into the hospital. And somebody normally upbeat and happy was not upbeat and happy. She was more like downtrodden and crappy. Walking in mad. You know how someone walks mad? You ever see that? I got up real close to her and I said, "What's wrong? Elizabeth, what's wrong, Liz? You're not having a good day? You're not even clocked in yet." She said, "Well, I was fine until that so-and-so took my parking spot." She didn't say so-and-so. She was steaming. I said, well, what do you mean? She took my spot and she did it on purpose. I said, all right, well, where did you park? Right next to her. And I said, okay, so you got a parking spot, everything's okay. Well, but she did it on purpose, and she knows I always park there. And so I was in a great mood, and now I'm not. I said, all right, let me just say this back to you so I'm clear on it before we get into the hospital. Someone took your spot, but you got one right next to that person, so no inconvenience for you whatsoever. Everything's really all right, but you decided to give this person's behavior permission to abduct your mood for the day, and now for the rest of your shift, all 12 hours, you're going to be in a less than optimal mood because of this one little moment in time. Do I have it right? She looked at me and she said, and I quote, Mark, I hate you. I've known her for 30 years. She said, you're right, I'm overreacting. I said, no, I'm just pointing out that other people can steal your mood if you let them, but you're in charge of all of it. You really weren't inconvenienced at all. In fact, it may be that later on today, that roof falls in on her car. Who knows? Maybe you got an accidental blessing. So she clocked in and she was fine. But see, it's those moments like that where you can let somebody else take away your joy. Listen, this is a side note. This won't cost you anything. Joy is an inside job. Never let somebody else determine your mood ever, ever, ever. They'll drop the ball every time. Why? They're human. They make mistakes. They may not even mean to hurt you. Never let somebody else determine how you feel about yourself. It's your job to be you. Do it. Don't farm it out. Don't farm it out. Don't let anybody else do it. They're very careless with the hearts of others. Sometimes not even on purpose. You're responsible for your joy. A stands for adaptation. Adapt. It's not the strong that survive, it's the adapters. Those who can adapt and adjust, they're the ones who are the strongest, and they're the ones who make it through. Those who resist and defy and want it to stay the way it's always been, they don't make it. They turn sour and their soul starts to sink and their face starts to wrinkle and they get angry and they have strokes and heart attacks and other types of internal inflammation and they destroy themselves because they don't like it. Adapt. Basically what you just said, accept what is, it is the way it's occurring. I don't like it, but I'm going to make this work for me. All right, the tide's coming in, I'm going to build a river. You got to find a way to take what you're not crazy about and make it work. L stands for let other people help you. Let someone help you, let someone in. I was talking earlier about a caregiver. And caregivers who take care of other people or who worry about other people are often very strong and afraid to ask for help. And help is just standing out there waiting. There's help everywhere. It's very easy to get caregiver role strain. It's very easy to get overwhelmed and think you have to do it all. And somehow that's a badge of honor and courage. No, it's not. You're not a failure, nor are you vulnerable for simply asking for help. Someone asked Elton John one time, how did you get clean? How did you get sober? He said, I finally, after 10 years, said 3 words. I need help. Changed his life. We are interdependent, whether we like it or not. We need one another. We need one another. One of the hardest things I watch people try and adapt to is when their body stops working as independently and as efficiently as it once did, and they now require assistance for even the smallest of things like bathroom needs, showering needs. If your body lives long enough, that's where you're going. That's why at age 60, I'm going to start drinking and smoking as much as I can to get out of here. I'm kidding. But there is something to be said for staying here too long in a body that stops working. And then you have other people taking care of you. It's all right for a while if there's light at the end of the tunnel and your quality is going to come back. But if it's indefinite, there's also a substantial practical matter, like how are you going to afford this? Big conversations which rarely get discussed. You don't like thinking about it until it happens. Always have a plan and be thinking ahead. Always have a plan and have something on paper written down. Don't leave it to chance, because you can do everything right and still go to the store and buy milk and get T-boned and be in an accident and be in an ED and be in a coma and not have anything to say about what happens to you next. And the person closest to you gets all the say, and they may not know at all what you want. Have conversations now. They're important. Put it on paper now. We live in a state that simply will do certain things to you, whether you like it or not, by law. If you care about those things, have these conversations now. They're not scary. They're not bad. Have them. I dare you to have them during Thanksgiving dinner. Oh, while you're passing the stuffing, how much stuffing would you like in your veins if you should get in a car accident, as far as tubing is concerned? That's what happens. I'm just being honest. I walk into rooms and situations where people are in situations they want nothing to do with, but there they are. Now it's a huge legal battle to even get them off of things they never wanted to begin with. It's complicated. But you can avoid all that by just having the discussion now, getting it on paper and getting it handled. I strongly encourage that of anyone of any age. Write it down, have conversations. People need to know what your wishes are. That's a little commercial. Because there's too much pain and too much suffering that happens that need not happen. And believe me, it's messier to try and undo it than to just simply take 5 minutes and write it down. Finally, M. M stands for Manage Your Own Moods, or Mood Management 101. I kind of touched on that already. Never let somebody else determine your mood. You're in charge of you. They're in charge of them. People have said to me in the past, don't cry. And I very politely, cousin, say to them, don't tell me what to feel. Don't tell me how to feel it. If I want to cry, I will cry. Because my moods and my emotions are my business, not yours. I let people cry and scream and be angry all they want to. I say, well, I can see it's not a good time to have a conversation with you. You're upset, you're angry, you're bitter, you don't want to talk. Have at it. When you're ready, I'm over here. Don't trample on that space. That's a boundary. They have a right to that. Now, with that boundary come consequences. As long as you're okay with the consequences, I'm dandy. I'm here when you need me. I'm in charge of my mood. I'm in charge of my thoughts. And I'm in charge of my feelings. Mood Management 101. I don't farm out or outsource any of those three. It's all up to me. Now, we don't do this very well at all. And if we had time, I could talk about all kinds of examples that you already in your own lives have. They're coming up. My practice is busiest right now because of Thanksgiving and Christmas. Because everyone's getting together, and that's a problem. That's a problem. See, everyone's been hollering, let's get back to the way life was. And I'm thinking, crap and drama, problems. Because we love people, but people are people. And they come with stuff and problems and issues and tics and quirks. We all have that uncle or that grandpa or that nephew or that we all have them. Some of us have more than one. Challenging. So good mood management for the holidays is good boundaries. If you can't be in the presence of a certain situation, excise yourself and remove yourself from it, because you already know that talking is going to do nothing. Be wise and try and anticipate. Exactly why I eat Thanksgiving alone. Because I'm in the public all the time. And I love people, but it's nice to just have no voices except all the voices in my head that I don't medicate properly and just eat my meal. That was a joke too, you missed it. Solitude, people don't like that. They're not good at it. Oftentimes because they've never spent enough time with themselves. They spend so much time distracting themselves from themselves, they don't like or know themselves. So when they're forced to be with themselves, they're panicked because they don't really know who they are. That's amplified in today's modern society. 2007, when the smartphone showed up, the intelligence level started to drop. We can see that diagrammatically. We can see that. Because now everybody outsources what used to be the control center to something in the hand. If you lose that, you've lost it all. I grew up in a time when you had phone numbers memorized, addresses memorized, in case you got lost. You had to know that. Today, you just have your phone. Because it has everything, pictures too, and email. And I'm not knocking technology. It's got its process. But people often rely too much on it, and they forget that this is way more efficient. You fix it. You're younger. You'll have time. I'll be out of here. Because remember, I'm going to start smoking and drinking to excess. I'm only halfway kidding, because I really do watch what happens to certain individuals if they get caught in the system. And I just really don't want that for myself. I just don't want that for myself. So maybe I'll start simple. Okay, I'll confess. Even to you out there in Zoom land, I'll confess. Maybe I'll just stop wearing my seatbelt. And just start with that and see how that goes. Of course, my luck, I'll just get a small injury and have to do rehab and catch a staph infection and the local SNF. And see, I know I sound cynical, but what I am is realistic, and I get to watch it all the time. I get to go behind the curtain of Oz, pull it back, and see what happens. It's not pretty, but it can all be avoided if you have conversations up front. So in conclusion, because I can obviously continue for quite some time, stay calm in situations by the CALM. Control what you can. Adapt in your own way. Each of you have your own skills at adapting. Let someone help you. Being vulnerable is a plus, not a negative. Don't try and be a hero unnecessarily. We are all interdependent. Let people help you. Let them help you. It's a sign that they love you. One of the best gifts you can give someone is don't steal their joy. Let them help you. They want to help you. Let them in. Let them in. You have control over whether or not you let them in. Let them in and manage your moods. And that's how you can always stay calm in any kind of catastrophe or chaos.